Welcome to my world, the extraordinary universe of racing pigeons that has captured my heart for over 2 decades. I'm your pigeon man, and today I want to share with you the most incredible journey you could ever imagine, one that takes place not in exotic lands or distant galaxies, but right here in the sky above us, carried on the wings of some of nature's most remarkable athletes. Let me tell you about the morning that changed everything for me. I was 12 years old, standing in my grandfather's backyard when I witnessed something that would shape the rest of my life. A small, seemingly ordinary pigeon landed on the roof of his old shed, and my grandfather's eyes lit up like I'd never seen before. That bird, he told me with trembling hands, had just flown over 400 miles to come home. 400 miles. Can you imagine that? This little creature, weighing barely a pound, had navigated across states, over mountains, through weather that would challenge the most experienced pilots, all to return to the place it called home. That pigeon was a racing pigeon, and in that moment I became a pigeon fancier for life. The world of pigeon racing opened up to me like a secret society, filled with passionate individuals who understood something that most people never discover. These birds aren't just pets, they're athletes, navigators and companions, all rolled into one incredible package that fits in the palm of your hands. When people hear about pigeon racing, they often picture something quaint and old-fashioned. But let me tell you, this sport is anything but outdated. Modern pigeon racing combines cutting-edge technology with ancient instincts, creating a spectacle that would make any sports fan's heart race. These champion pigeons are bred with the same precision and care that goes into thoroughbred racehorses, and the dedication required to succeed in this sport rivals that of any Olympic athlete. The journey begins in the pigeon loft, which becomes the heart and soul of every serious pigeon fancier's operation. Building the perfect pigeon loft isn't just about creating shelter. It's about designing a home that will inspire these incredible birds to always return. Every detail matters, from the orientation to catch the morning sun, to the ventilation systems that keep the air fresh and clean, to the landing boards where tired racers will touch down after their epic journeys. I remember building my first loft with my own hands, spending countless weekends measuring, cutting, and dreaming about the champions that would one day call it home. The excitement of installing those first perches, setting up the nesting boxes, and watching the space transform from empty shed to pigeon paradise is something every pigeon man experiences. Your loft becomes an extension of yourself, a reflection of your commitment to these amazing creatures. But the real magic happens when you start understanding pigeon care at the deepest level. These aren't backyard birds that you can simply feed and forget. Racing pigeons require the kind of attention and dedication that transforms hobby into passion, and passion into obsession. Every morning begins with a careful inspection of your team, checking each bird for signs of health, vitality, and readiness. You learn to read their body language like a book, noticing when a particular pigeon is feeling strong and confident, or when another might need a day of rest and extra nutrition. Pigeon health becomes your constant focus, because a healthy pigeon is a fast pigeon, and a fast pigeon is a winning pigeon. You develop an eye for the subtle signs that indicate peak condition versus the early warnings of potential problems. The brightness in their eyes, the smoothness of their feathers, the way they hold their bodies when perched, the enthusiasm with which they greet the morning, all of these details become part of your daily assessment routine. Feeding racing pigeons is both an art and a science that requires understanding nutrition in ways that would surprise most people. These athletes burn energy at incredible rates during training and racing, so their diet must be precisely calibrated to provide sustained energy, rapid recovery, and optimal health. The pigeon feeding routine becomes a carefully orchestrated dance of different seeds, supplements, and timing that changes based on the season, the training schedule, and the specific needs of each individual bird. I've spent years perfecting my feeding program, experimenting with different combinations of corn, wheat, barley, peas, and specialty seeds that provide the complex carbohydrates and proteins these flying marathoners need. During racing season, the feeding schedule becomes even more critical. You learn to increase the fat content before a long race to provide sustained energy, then switch to easily digestible proteins and carbohydrates for rapid recovery afterward. The process of training pigeons reveals the true genius of these creatures and the skill required to develop their natural abilities. Young pigeons don't automatically know how to race. They must be taught, guided, and gradually prepared for the challenges they'll face. Training begins with short flights around the loft, teaching the birds to orient themselves and understand that this particular location is home base, the place they must always return to, no matter how far they travel. As the training progresses, you gradually increase the distances, taking groups of pigeons out in a vehicle and releasing them from points that grow progressively farther from home. 5 miles becomes 10, 10 becomes 20, 20 becomes 50, and so on until these incredible athletes are capable of flying hundreds of miles and still finding their way back to your loft. Each training flight builds confidence, strengthens navigation skills, and develops the physical conditioning required for competitive racing. Watching a well-trained racing pigeon navigate its way home is like witnessing a miracle in real time. Scientists still don't fully understand all the mechanisms these birds use for navigation, but we know they can sense magnetic fields, use the position of the sun, recognize geographical landmarks, and even detect infrasound, low-frequency sound waves that travel great distances. They're living, breathing GPS systems that make our modern technology look primitive by comparison. The competitive world of pigeon racing operates at levels that range from local club events to international championships that attract participants from around the globe. A one-loft race represents the pinnacle of competition, where pigeons from different breeders are all raised together in a single facility and then released simultaneously, ensuring that every bird faces identical conditions and that victory goes purely to the fastest, strongest, and most determined competitor. These one-loft races capture the imagination of pigeon fanciers worldwide because they level the playing field in ways that reveal the true genetic potential of champion pigeons. When hundreds or even thousands of birds are released together from distances of several hundred miles, the race becomes a test of pure athletic ability and navigational skill. The first bird to arrive home can win prizes worth thousands of dollars and, more importantly, establish bloodlines that will be sought after by breeders for generations to come. The emotional investment in pigeon racing goes far beyond the financial aspects or even the competitive drive. Each bird in your loft becomes an individual with its own personality, preferences, and capabilities. You learn to recognize the natural-born racers, the birds that seem to live for the challenge of finding their way home from impossible distances. These special individuals become the foundation of your breeding program and the source of countless hours of hope and excitement. I'll never forget my first real champion, a blue hen I called Lightning because of the way she moved through the sky. She wasn't the biggest bird in my loft or the most beautiful, but she had something indefinable that separated her from all the others. When other pigeons would circle and orient themselves after being released, Lightning would simply point herself toward home and fly in a straight line, as if she could see through mountains and across valleys, directly to our loft. Lightning won her first race as a young bird, beating more experienced competitors by arriving home 30 minutes ahead of the second-place finisher. But more than her speed, it was her consistency that made her special. Week after week, race after race, she would return home among the first arrivals regardless of weather conditions or the difficulty of the course. She taught me that true champions aren't just fast, they're reliable, mentally tough, and completely committed to the task at hand. The breeding aspects of pigeon racing add another layer of complexity and fascination to this incredible sport. Successful pigeon fanciers become geneticists, studying bloodlines, analyzing performance data, and making careful breeding decisions designed to produce the next generation of champions. The offspring of proven racing pigeons carry the genetic potential for greatness, but realizing that potential requires careful selection, proper training, and a bit of luck. Understanding pigeon genetics means learning about the traits that contribute to racing success. Speed is obviously important, but endurance matters just as much when birds are flying. Distances that can exceed 500 miles in a single race. Intelligence and navigational ability can't be overlooked because the fastest pigeon in the world won't win races if it gets lost along the way. Physical characteristics like wing shape, muscle development, and respiratory capacity all play roles in determining racing potential. The most successful breeding programs combine birds with complementary strengths, pairing a pigeon with exceptional speed to one with superior endurance, or matching a bird with proven racing ability to one from a bloodline known for producing consistent performers. These breeding decisions require patience because the results won't be known for years until the offspring mature and prove themselves in competition. Pigeon care during the breeding season requires adjustments to diet, housing, and daily routines. Breeding pairs need extra nutrition to support egg production and the demands of raising young squabs. The nesting boxes must be prepared with appropriate materials, and the breeding birds need privacy and security to successfully raise their offspring. Watching parent pigeons care for their young reveals another dimension of these remarkable creatures, showing their dedication and protective instincts. The challenges of pigeon racing extend beyond the obvious difficulties of training and competition. Weather plays a huge role in the success or failure of individual races and entire racing seasons. Strong headwinds can turn a routine race into an endurance test that eliminates all but the toughest competitors. Storms can scatter flocks and delay arrivals for hours or even days. Extreme heat or cold affects performance and can pose serious health risks to the competing birds. Predators present another constant concern for any pigeon fancier serious about protecting their investment in these valuable athletes. Hawks, falcons, and other birds of prey view racing pigeons as premium prey, and they quickly learn to patrol the routes commonly used by racing birds. The loss of a promising young racer or proven champion to a predator is heartbreaking and represents years of careful breeding and training gone in an instant. Disease prevention becomes a critical skill for anyone involved in pigeon racing, as these birds can be susceptible to various ailments that affect their performance or threaten their lives. Regular health monitoring, vaccination programs, and quarantine procedures for new birds all become part of the routine management practices that separate successful pigeon fanciers from those who struggle with health problems in their lofts. The technological advances in modern pigeon racing have revolutionized both training and competition while maintaining the fundamental nature of the sport. Electronic timing systems ensure accurate race results, while GPS tracking devices allow researchers to study flight patterns and navigation strategies in unprecedented detail. Some races now use electronic liberation systems that photograph each bird as it's released, providing definitive proof of race conditions and timing. These technological improvements haven't diminished the skill required to succeed in pigeon racing. They've simply raised the bar and made competition more precise and fair. The best pigeon fanciers embrace new technology while never losing sight of the fundamental relationship between human and bird that makes this sport so compelling. The international community of pigeon racing creates connections between people from vastly different backgrounds who share a common passion for these incredible birds. I've traveled to competitions in other countries and always found myself welcomed by fellow pigeon fanciers who spoke different languages but understood the universal language of dedication to champion pigeons. These relationships often last for decades, built on mutual respect for the sport and genuine appreciation for the birds that make it all possible. Trading breeding birds, sharing training techniques, and simply discussing the latest developments in pigeon care creates bonds that transcend cultural and geographical boundaries. Young people entering the world of pigeon racing today inherit a tradition that spans generations while having access to resources and knowledge that previous generations could only dream of. The fundamentals remain the same: understanding your birds, providing excellent care, and developing training programs that bring out their best. But the tools and techniques available to accomplish these goals continue to evolve. The future of pigeon racing looks bright as new generations of pigeon fanciers discover the joy and challenge of working with these amazing creatures. Environmental concerns and urban development create new challenges, but they also inspire innovative solutions and increased appreciation for the remarkable abilities of racing pigeons. Every pigeon fancier has stories of birds that touch their lives in special ways. Champions that exceeded all expectations, breeding decisions that paid off spectacularly, and races that provided thrills no other sport could match. These stories become part of the oral tradition of pigeon racing, passed down from experienced fanciers to newcomers eager to learn from those who came before. My own journey with racing pigeons continues to provide new challenges and discoveries after more than 20 years in the sport. Each breeding season brings new hope and possibilities. Each racing season tests the results of months of preparation and training. Each individual bird presents unique characteristics and potential that keep the experience fresh and exciting. The seasonal rhythms of pigeon racing create a natural calendar that governs the lives of serious pigeon fanciers throughout the year. Winter months are dedicated to planning breeding pairs, preparing loft facilities, and studying performance records from the previous season. This quiet period allows for reflection on what worked well and what needs improvement, setting the stage for another year of competition and achievement. Spring awakens the breeding instincts in your racing pigeons and signals the beginning of the most exciting time of year for any pigeon man. Watching pairs select their mates, build nests, and begin the process of creating the next generation of potential champions never loses its fascination. Each egg represents possibility, each hatching squab carries the genetic legacy of proven performers, and each young bird that develops strong flight muscles and keen intelligence offers hope for future racing success. The art of selecting breeding pairs requires understanding genetic principles that many university students would find challenging. Successful pigeon fanciers learn to read pedigrees like genealogists, tracing bloodlines back through generations of champion pigeons to identify the genetic combinations most likely to produce superior racing ability. The most valuable racing pigeons often command breeding fees that rival those of champion racehorses, reflecting their proven ability to pass racing excellence to their offspring. Raising young pigeons from hatching to racing readiness demands patience, skill, and unwavering attention to detail. The feeding schedule for growing squabs requires adjustments every few days as their nutritional needs change rapidly during development. Hand-feeding orphaned or rejected babies becomes a labor of love that creates bonds between pigeon and fancier that last for years. These hand-raised birds often become the most trusting and responsive members of your racing team. Training programs for young racing pigeons must be carefully tailored to each individual bird's development and capabilities. Some youngsters show natural flying ability from their first flights around the loft, while others need additional encouragement and shorter training distances to build confidence. The most successful pigeon fanciers learn to recognize these differences and adjust their training accordingly, never pushing a bird beyond its current abilities while still challenging it to improve. The psychology of racing pigeons reveals intelligence and emotional depth that surprises people unfamiliar with these remarkable birds. Champion pigeons develop preferences for certain weather conditions, particular training partners, and specific feeding times that smart fanciers learn to accommodate. Some birds race better when they're defending eggs or feeding young squabs, while others perform best when they're completely free of breeding responsibilities. Veteran racing pigeons accumulate wisdom and experience that becomes invaluable during difficult races. These older birds often serve as leaders during training flights, showing younger team members the most efficient routes home and demonstrating calm confidence when weather conditions become challenging. The decision of when to retire a champion racer from competition and move them into the breeding loft represents one of the most difficult choices any pigeon fancier faces. International pigeon racing competitions showcase the global nature of this sport and the incredible dedication of participants from every continent. The South African $1 Million Pigeon Race attracts entries from around the world, with individual birds worth tens of thousands of dollars competing for prize money that can change lives. These prestigious events demonstrate the highest levels of pigeon racing excellence and inspire fanciers everywhere to improve their own programs. The economic aspects of competitive pigeon racing create opportunities for both modest hobbyists and serious investors. Young birds from proven bloodlines can be purchased for reasonable amounts, allowing newcomers to acquire quality racing stock without enormous initial investments. However, the most successful racing and breeding programs require significant ongoing investments in facilities, feed, veterinary care, and transportation that can total thousands of dollars annually. Modern communication technology has revolutionized the pigeon racing community by allowing instant sharing of race results, breeding information, and training techniques. Online forums connect pigeon fanciers from different countries, creating virtual communities where knowledge and experience are freely shared. GPS tracking systems now provide detailed flight data that helps researchers understand navigation strategies and allows fanciers to analyze their bird's performance with unprecedented precision. The conservation aspects of pigeon racing contribute to preserving genetic diversity in domestic pigeons and maintaining breeds that might otherwise disappear. Many racing pigeon bloodlines trace back hundreds of years to specific regions and individual breeders who developed unique characteristics through careful selection. Today's pigeon fanciers serve as guardians of this genetic heritage, ensuring that future generations will have access to these remarkable bloodlines. Environmental challenges facing modern pigeon racing include habitat loss, increasing urbanization, and climate change effects that alter traditional migration patterns and weather systems. Smart pigeon fanciers adapt their training and racing strategies to accommodate these changes while working to preserve flying routes and release sites that have been used for generations. Conservation efforts often involve cooperation between racing organizations and environmental groups to protect areas crucial for pigeon training and competition. Veterinary science advances have dramatically improved pigeon healthcare and performance optimization in recent decades. Specialized avian veterinarians now understand racing pigeon physiology in detail, providing preventive care programs and performance enhancement strategies that were unimaginable just 20 years ago. Nutritional supplements, vaccination protocols, and diagnostic testing help ensure that champion pigeons compete at peak condition while maintaining excellent health throughout their careers. The mentorship tradition in pigeon racing creates lasting relationships between experienced fanciers and newcomers eager to learn the secrets of success. These relationships often begin when young people show interest in the sport and continue for decades as knowledge, breeding stock, and friendship are passed from one generation to the next. Many of today's most successful pigeon fanciers credit their achievements to mentors who shared wisdom gained through years of dedication to racing pigeons. Record keeping and data analysis have become essential tools for serious pigeon racing competitors who track performance metrics, breeding results, and health information with computer databases that would impress professional sports teams. This information guides breeding decisions, training modifications, and race entry strategies that can mean the difference between mediocre results and championship performance. The most successful programs combine traditional pigeon fancier intuition with modern analytical techniques. Weather forecasting technology helps pigeon fanciers make informed decisions about training flights and race participation, but the unpredictable nature of weather systems means that every race includes elements of chance that keep competition exciting. Sudden storms, unexpected wind shifts, and temperature changes can dramatically affect race outcomes, ensuring that victory always requires both preparation and good fortune. The social aspects of pigeon racing create communities that extend far beyond competition into genuine friendships and mutual support networks. Local racing clubs organize weekly training flights, monthly races, and annual banquets that bring together people who share this unique passion. These gatherings provide opportunities to share knowledge, trade birds, and celebrate the achievements of both human participants and their feathered athletes. The ethical responsibilities of pigeon racing demand that participants always prioritize the welfare of their birds over competitive success. This means providing excellent daily care, making difficult decisions to skip races when conditions might be dangerous, and ensuring that breeding programs focus on health and vitality rather than purely on racing performance. The best pigeon fanciers understand that their reputation depends not just on winning races, but on treating their birds with the respect and care these remarkable athletes deserve. This incredible world of racing pigeons offers experiences that transform hobby into passion and create lifelong connections between humans and these extraordinary birds. Whether you're attracted by the competitive challenges, the breeding possibilities, or simply the daily joy of working with champion pigeons, this sport provides rewards that extend far beyond any prizes or recognition. The magic happens in those quiet morning moments when you open the loft and see your team of racing pigeons ready for another day of training, their bright eyes reflecting intelligence, trust, and the ancient partnership between human and bird that makes this entire amazing journey possible.